starting the 5th Perek of Beitsa, Perek HaMashilin. The first Mishnah we went through now, and it talks about a certain heter for moving fruit from the roof back into the house to prevent damage to the fruit from the rain. So they used to put fruit or any kind of produce on the roof for vegetables, also for sometimes drying them out or other storage purposes. So the Chiddush is, even though it's Yom Tov, there's an issue of tircha, of exerting oneself a bit too much for a holiday spirit. You're supposed to have a good time, not sit there moving your produce around. But to prevent a hefsid maruba, financial loss, we allow it.
So one's not allowed fruit on Sunday and Yom Tov, nor on Shabbos to prevent a loss, right?
Yeah.
What did you call it last? Hefsid?
Well, the term that's used usually by Chazal is hefsid maruba, a large loss.
Oh, I see.
Maruba means a larger amount.
And hefsid?
Hefsid means a loss of money. Loss, but usually it means a loss of money. So there are various places throughout Chazal where we see they were makel for hefsid maruba. They were makel on people to allow certain things, usually midrabanan things, obviously, in order to facilitate salvaging from preventing a financial loss. Here perhaps is even more appropriate because on Yom Tov, the whole reason why we normally worry about tircha is that it usually detracts from Simchas Yom Tov if you have to work hard and do things that exert yourself. Not usually an enjoyable way of passing the time. But if you're going to be suffering a financial loss and we tell you, no, you can save it, that will cheer you up. So that will actually add to your Simchas Yom Tov. Perhaps that's why they traded it off here. What do you say, Sruli?
Correct.
You like that score?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, let's see the first Rashi.
Can I just ask you a question before we go on? This, Hatran aleghe mi mevi.
Excuse me?
Hatran aleghe mi mevi. What's
Yeah.
mi mevi?
Amegi Kadayain. That was the beginning of the 4th Perek started with that, so they give it the name.
Oh, I see.
Just like Devarim is called Sefer Devarim because of the first word in Devarim.
I thought it was maybe. We might come back to it.
Wrong language. Just like this Perek is now to be called HaMashilin because that's the first word in the Perek. The first word in the previous Perek was Mevi, HaMevi Kadayain, so they call the Perek HaMevi, Perek HaMevi. Okay, Sruli, the first Rashi, please.
Shalim Perester Faruka. מישהו יש לו חוטים.
Chitim.
Chitim is wheat. Sa'arim, barley. Shtochen or goder, spread on the roof.
Okay.
His abai.
L'hit yabesh, l'his yabesh.
It's yabesh, become dry. Roa geshomen mashim.
It's an expression, mashmashin u'ba'im.
Mashmashim abai.
Basically, the shomin is formulating and coming. It's forming, the clouds are forming, and they're about to burst forth.
Hus tirula la taruach. You got to exert yourself for hashech derech haruva. Shubagag. Low through the scarlet on the roof. Ain't no fling the arts. And it falls down to the ground. There is no real bother.
No, there's no what?
Extra effort.
Extra. So there is some, but there's not a lot extra, so it's a minimal amount.
The Dafka Aruva, the Dafka Aruva Scarlet. The whole Aruva Milamar Mata,
No, you skipped a line.
No, that's good.
No, sorry. The Dafka Ruba, sorry, go ahead.
Whole Aruba Milamar Mata, any amount of any scarlet from above and below.
What does that mean?
Above and below, how much uses couture openings?
The opening's above, so when you're putting something through that, it's going from above to below. That's what Aruba means.
Above to below? From above to below, what?
That's the end of the sentence. It is. It is from above to below. Anytime you mention Aruba, it's always from above to below. Why?
He the Tikras Hagag. What's Tikras Hagag means what?
It's in the roof. It's in the roof of the house. So it's in the roof, so when you're putting something through there, it's going to go from above down. As Rashi said before, when you put something through there, it falls through by itself. It's going to come down by itself. You don't have to really exert yourself on that part.
Well, for line, going Gag, Shmuka Mechitza, it surrounds a wall, a Chalom B'Kaisel, and a window in the wall, it's all like Biach, Ala Chalai. Let's lift up until the window. Hashlichu, Lo Tarchina, not bothered.
No, we don't let you do that kind of tircha. That amount of tircha we don't let. Lo tarchina, we're not going to let you do that amount of work. So which is a harder job? Putting it through the aruba or putting it through a window? That's what he's saying. That's why the Mishnah stresses aruba to alert you to this difference in halacha. That if it would be a window, meaning sort of laterally through a window that's, you have to lift it up and push it through that window, that extra work is what Rashi says we're not going to let you do. So it's almost like the science of how much tircha will let you do. This much but no more.
Don't allow you to do what?
It won't allow you to pick it up and throw it through the window, because that is too much in total of a hard job. To have it fall through the skylight is a very easy job. All you have to do is sort of push it towards the skylight and then just push it a little bit more and it falls down by itself. Whereas to get it through a window, you have to actually pick it up and throw it through, which are two steps of tircha that we don't want you to do. Pick it up to the height of the window and then throw it through. Both of those seem to be a problem. So even though we're letting you do a certain amount of tircha to prevent a financial loss, but it has its limitation. We won't let you do just anything. We have our limits of what we'll let you do. Only this much, not more. Only a bit of tircha, a very minor amount, but not this extra amount. Right?
Yes.
Okay, what else do we say in the Mishnah? That's one chiddush, and whatever we allowed you to do on Yom Tov, we're not allowing you to do it on Shabbos, however. That was another thing, Rosh doesn't mention it, but that's something you have to consider, that it's not allowed on Shabbos. I'm sorry?
It's muktzah.
Okay, it could be because of the muksa issue. That's a good point. If we're talking about wheat, what are you going to do with wheat on Shabbos? Whereas on Yom Tov you can process it to cook it, I suppose. Although you're not really allowed to grind it so much, maybe a certain amount.
Next one.
Okay. Unless Shabbat would like to try Rashi.
Do you need the next Rashi?
Rashi's a little bit.
Chasin is a Paris.
ומכניסים את הקריאות, you can cover up the fruit, ולא אומרים טרח. We don't say it's טרח. שלא...
It's what?
We don't say that it's effort.
Too much effort.
שלא לצורך יום טוב, it's not mystery in יום טוב.
So that's one expression, right? That's all one expression. We don't say it's quote unquote Torah shalol tzorchen. We don't call it a Torah, which is not for the sake of it. Which we should, perhaps, because you're trying to just save your fruit from being damaged.
הוא דשרי לרבנן, משום הספד.
Said.
Said mammon. So it's allowed for the rabbis allowed because of the saving of money.
Right. So first Rashi seemed to say it's not enough of a tircha to make it a problem, but then he's mashma. Afterwards, yes, it might have been, but because of the other consideration of hefsid mammon, loss of money, which we spoke about before we call that hefsid maruba, Rashi's calling it just hefsid mammon, the loss of money in general. So we're allowing it. So both of these cases have that similarity, it seems. That they're both for the sake of saving some kind of financial loss. The next halacha.
Delef. It's a downpour.
Delef is what?
The downpour of rain.
Well, it's not outside the downfall. It's through the leak in the roof.
Why is it a leak in the roof?
Why is there a leak in the roof? Why didn't they fix the roof?
No, if you're throwing it through the skylight.
No, he's not talking about that specifically. Now we're talking about a whole different case. What about if you have a leak in your roof?
I see. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's a leak in the roof. The gashmi of rain. Hanot fin min hadak. What hanot fin means?
From the word tipa.
Tipa, dripping.
Right.
It's dripping through the roof.
Right. So rain that drips to the roof is what we call a leak in the roof. That's called delif. So when you have that happening, you're allowed to cover up the fruit to make sure they don't continue to get wet.
Geen kedai yain. In the same way, yain.
Barrels of wine.
Nami Nachnisim Mipnei Hadelef. That we can cover them against this dripping of water through the roof.
Right. Probably he's talking about the kind of barrel that's made out of ceramic, that the water could actually dissolve the barrel if there's too much of it dripping onto the barrel. Wooden barrel, I don't think it would happen, right? Wooden barrel is impervious to the water, I think. But maybe we're talking about a ceramic barrel of wine that they used to have in those days, so therefore it might be penetrable by the water. Therefore, there's a reason to save them from being struck by the water. So the last part of the Mishnah said we can even put a kli underneath a drip in order to catch the water.
To receive the tinuf habayit.
On account of the worry of tinuf habayit. So tinuf, dirtying. Dirtying.
So tinuf I know is waving.
That's lahanif. A tinuf is like when a child dirties his diaper, that kind of thing. Soiling. So they used to have dirt floors, so if the rain starts dripping in, you can get a huge muddy floor, and then there goes the house. Everything gets muddy, everything gets dirty, everything gets disgusting. So to save your house from becoming filthy, from becoming full of muddy water, that's the heter. So how many different heterim do we have in the Mishnah, Sruli?
One is the scarlet.
Sorry?
You don't lower fruit to the scarlet.
Okay, one.
One Shabbos. Two is to cover fruit.
To save it from
Going bad.
being rained on again.
Three is the shirt.
Sorry?
The shirt.
Shirt? What shirt?
No, delef.
What's delef?
Delef is storm clouds.
Is what?
Storm clouds.
No, it's a leak through the roof. A leak in water through the roof.
Okay, the next one.
No, you didn't get the first one right. So far we have, you can put the produce through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
You can, what's the second thing?
And cover fruit because of the storm clouds.
Okay, the third thing you can do.
And the shem and the barrels of shem and the barrels of wine, you can place them underneath the delef is fence, right?
You can what?
Place them in the fence. Delef.
Nope, a delef is a leak.
Leak. Yep. It's a leak on Shabbos, you don't do this. So place underneath the leak on Shabbos.
What?
The barrels of wine and
Those
oil.
are two separate cases. You're mixing them together. Don't look at them as one case, look at those as two separate cases.
So Nosim Kli Tatas Antel for Shabbos is a different case?
Yeah. It's the fourth case in the Mishnah.
So one's allowed to cover fruit with one's allowed to cover fruit because of the rain clouds.
You're not allowed?
Allowed to.
You're allowed to.
And also because and also barrels of wine.
What about barrels of wine?
Allowed to cover them because
To
of
cover them as well. So we're letting you cover fruit, so they shouldn't get wet from the leak. And we're letting you cover these barrels of wine, of oil, so they shouldn't get wet. What happens if a barrel gets wet? What's so bad about that? Why would you say it's so bad?
Why is it so bad?
I understand fruit, when it gets wet, gets all mushy, it gets all disgusting. What happens to a barrel?
It's moist, it starts to
Because we're talking about what kind of a barrel, probably.
wine and oil.
Made out of what?
Made out of
A barrel made out of wood, like we have today, barrels of wine that are made out of wood. Would that be a problem of getting wet?
I'll say yes.
No. If water spills on this table, do you think it's going to ruin the table? No. Wood is impervious to water. You put a wooden ship in the water, it's supposed to float.
So, what are we worried about? What else are we worried about?
What kind of barrel are we talking about?
Given I made another material.
What material do you think is it going to be made out of in those days?
Cloth now.
Huh?
I'm not sure.
Ceramic.
So,
You know what that is? Pottery.
yeah.
And if it wasn't put in the oven to make it strong, it could
No.
dissolve, like it's made out of mud, basically. A kind of mud. So that could also be a problem. Okay, so how many heterim are there in this Mishnah?
1, 2, let's say 3.
What are the three?
The rover is 1.
The aruba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin Paris with the key.
Okay.
The stone pose and similar 1 and oil.
That's all one? It's not two?
It's 2.
Okay, so that's three altogether.
Yeah. Then 4, medicine, key, tachas, sadil, kasharos.
Okay, that's a different kind of a heter. That's not to save something, but what? What are you doing that for?
Not sure.
Because what kind of floors did they used to have in those days?
Mud.
Dirt floors. So if it starts to get wet, it can turn into mud, which is not a lot of fun. So to preserve the beauty of Shabbos or the house cleanliness of the house, they let you put a kli to catch the leaking water from the roof. Why wouldn't they do that? What's the big chiddush? That tircha? Is that hard to put a bowl down on the floor to catch the... Maybe you have to keep changing the water, right? Keep shifting it around, right? It's hard to keep it up. But it could be a different kashash, because then once you put the bowl there, it might become muktzah. Why would the bowl become muktzah?
You need to catch the water.
So is the water muktzah?
Yes.
Why is the water muktzah?
Not using it.
Nolad.
Like Nolan, why? Where does it come from?
The roof.
Not just the roof, how did it get to the roof?
It fell.
From where?
From the roof.
But it got onto the roof how?
The rain.
Rain.
Yeah.
And where does the rain come from?
Heaven.
Heaven. So, is that something that was within your existence before Shabbos or before Yom Tov?
No.
It's in a different realm. So that should be called muktzah, right? Rainwater should be called muktzah. So here I'm taking a bowl and I'm putting underneath the leak. That bowl is going to become full of muktzah.
Once before, I seem to remember, right in the beginning, when he was talking about things you could do and you couldn't do, and you could use the leftover oil for your salads and so forth. In that section, there was something about a bowl that you couldn't cover and you could cover. Remember what that was?
Yeah, I remember there was an issue about that. I think there was some machlokus about that as well. Okay, so you have your homework
If
today.
there's a bowl under the bed you can't cover or something. I don't know if it was in that particular section. I remember.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about. I was also talking about sweeping the house or something.
Yeah, you can't sweep the kitchen. It's like a building, unless you're filling the cracks. So might come to do it in a place where you, like the bedroom, if you sleep in the kitchen. They don't need that.
Yeah, that was a slightly different point. But yeah, maybe there's an overlapping, maybe, because the truth of the matter is, are the halakhas of this Mishnah regarding Shabbos or Yom Tov?
Yom Tov.
Not all of them. Look at the last halakha.
It says Shabbos.
Nosnim kli tachas adelef b'Shabbos. That's already a heter on Shabbos. Why would that be heter on Shabbos? Maybe it's not so much of a tircha. So now the whole question is muktzah, perhaps, and the need is a bigger need because you get a whole, all the mud, the whole floor becomes muddy. To prevent that, might be a bigger need for actual covered Shabbos rather than just some external thing like saving the produce. So till then, the first halakha for sure is only on Yom Tov and not on Shabbos, right? You're not allowed on Shabbos to put the produce through. Shabbos, I pointed out, might be even muksa. For all we know, but certainly there's no heter. And we can cover peiros. Rashi's mashma there also. It's a heter of tircha. It's not called tircha. Shalol tzorech Yom Tov. And in order to save the money. But there's no mention of Shabbos there. So there, the first 2 or 3 halachas seem to be regarding Yom Tov. And the last one is even on Shabbos. Okay, let's start the Gemora then, if everybody's happy with the Mishnah.
I can't remember that from
I give you 24 hours to come up with it. It'll either come to you before you go to sleep, or maybe in the middle of the night you wake up and realize where it was. Okay, who would like to start the Gemora? Okay, I'll also take a break. Please turn off the video. None. This isn't really usually an exact word for it because it can happen in a Beitsa or a Mishnah, but it's not really referred to it directly as a HaKodesh Tanoi. Tanoi, sometimes they say something is Tanoi, which the same letters spell Tanai, which is condition, but it's usually pronounced slightly differently to differentiate it from HaKodesh Tanoi being Tanoi, Taf Nun Aleph Yud, and Tanai, which means a condition, is Taf Nun Aleph Yud, but with a slightly different vowel. But this is Itmar, which literally means it was said. But you could translate it as once upon a time it was said a machlokas amoraim. Okay, this is going to be a slightly different one than we're used to because normally it's a machlokas in halacha. But here it's not necessarily in halacha, it's more in just the wording of the Mishnah.
So Itmar was a machlokas amoraim, right?
Right.
Machlokas amoraim. Yehuda Rav Masa.
Correct.
Fratani Meshirim. One told Meshirim, which was Beshallah, one told you can lower down the fruit. Fratani Mashchilim. What's Mashchilim?
All these mean some type of lowering down action. Just a question, did they choose to use this word or did they choose to use this word?
One told Mashim, one told Mashchilim.
Correct.
One mazuk שזה mazuk של המון דתני Mashilim לא משתרש. One taught Mashilim taught.
That's the one in our Mishnah.
לא משתרש.
It's not a mistake. Mishtabesh means he made a mistake. So when Mishtabesh means he's not making a mistake.
Don't make a mistake.
How do we know? We'll see soon.
Okay,
Is that a common Hebrew name for
I'm
mistake?
sorry?
The normal word for mistake is
Ta'ut.
Ta'ut.
Yeah, this is a different kind of a word that's usually applied to a mistaken tradition. It's kind of like he got it wrong, as opposed to a mistake is kind of like a small error. But if you got the whole thing wrong, it's like a shibush, it's like a gross error.
one Tanya Mashchilim loy mishtarish. When it was thought to be Mashchilim instead of Mashilim, he didn't make a mistake.
In other words, both of them are correct. It's just a matter of the girsa.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you ever heard the Midrash, that it says when Adam Rishon and Chava sinned, the original sin of eating from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, it says they realized they were naked and they made for themselves cover, right? That says kasnos or. I think Hashem made for them kasnos or. Hashem made for them some kind of a tunic of or. And some spell it with an ayin, meaning a leather skin. Skin, like our skin is also or. Like a skin doctor today is called a rofeh or, with an ayin. Or with an ayin. So that's assumed to be the text for when Hashem made them clothing, made them out of skin, like animal skin. Same word. Right? Or. Right? If you look in the Chumash, it's probably the way it's spelled. Ayin, Vav Resh. But there is another, I think Rabbi Meir, of all people, said that he feels that it should be Kosnos Or, with an aleph, which means as if Hashem made it out of light. So sometimes you get things that sound similar, but they're different, and sometimes you get things that sound different, but they're really similar. So here we're saying, even though there's a number of possibilities for the same kind of a word, they all fit in. What's the Mishnah trying to say? You're allowed to lower down through this hole all these different kinds of produce into the house through the skylight and not through a window. So which verb is the correct one? Lower down, throw down, send down.
Another one.
Sounds like that's what he's saying. They're all right. All of these things are what you're allowed to do. It's just a matter of there's different ways of saying it. So someone had one version, someone had another version. Are they right or wrong? They're all right. Meaning there's no real difference in halacha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The word for skin, animal skin in English for hide. So Mr. Slosh says that that's exactly what it does. It hides.
It's to hide things.
Hides the animal.
Or a man uses it to hide himself.
Yeah, which is the animal side.
We refer to it as a hide because we use it to hide. Very good. Alright. So, let's go through the different possibilities here. So far we have two possibilities. Mashilin, which is actually our girsa. Mashchilin, which is another girsa, which we say is not a mistake. And we're going to see a few more possibilities later on.
Yes.
So make a difference halachically? No. But it's like saying I can accept your different way of saying it because it doesn't make a halachic difference. And it conveys the idea of lowering down.
Yes.
Okay? So that's sometimes what the Gemora will do before it gets into the halachic questions. It clears up the girsa. Which girsa is the correct girsa? In this case, which is the correct girsa?
Either way.
Either. But we have to see, are there precedents for this? Each word has a precedent somewhere else where it's used for the same kind of meaning?
Yes.
Let's see, go ahead.
Man, the Tanya Mashilin, Lo Mishtabesh. One who taught that Mashilin means to lower down. It didn't make a mistake. The Chsiv has written a pasuk.
In Devarim.
The word Nisha Zecha. What does it mean?
When your olives will fall off the tree.
Yes.
I think it might be part of the tochacha, like Hashem's going to send a kind of a punishment that when your olives fall off the tree, you won't be able to eat them or something. But we know that therefore the word yashel. Where else do we see this word by the way to mean take down, to go down? What did Hashem say to Moshe Rabbeinu with the sneh?
Take off your shoes.
How do you say it? Shal
Your line.
na'alecha mi'al raglecha. Shal. What's shal?
Take off.
Take it off. Take it down. Right? Same thing here. Ki yishal zeisecha, when your olives fall off the tree. So it's a downward motion.
Yes.
Okay, and let's see Rashi on that. Lo mishtabish.
Should we read the Rashi name?
לא משתבש, וכלהו לשון משפלה,
Hashpala.
השפלה נינינו.
What's ninhu?
Is.
They are. They are what? All of these are what?
Lower language.
Language of, an expression of. Language of means that it's an expression of hashpala, of lowering down. Today in modern Hebrew, lahashpil means to degrade someone, to lower them down, to disparage someone, basically. Well, that's the word, to lower down. So, are any of these a mistake, Rashi says? No, because they're all ways of expressing the idea of putting something from above down.
What does hashpala mean? Lower down.
The act of lowering something, which can also mean to degrade something, but that's like a borrowed figurative expression.
Talk about a man that's not foul, is lost his earnings or become poor.
Huh?
The Torah calls him the man that's become poor. He says, I think they use this word, not foul. Someone who's fallen.
I don't know. I'm saying benching low race tzaddik me'ezav. I never saw someone abandoned by Hashem. A tzaddik abandoned by Hashem. Anyhow, obviously you can use this word to denote many kinds of falling from high to low, figuratively. As I said, when you degrade someone, you say something derogatory about them, it's called mashpil.
So what is Nilhu mean?
They are. Like Hain. Right? Often the subject coming at the end of the sentence rather than the beginning. You could say all of them, they are. Instead of saying all of them, they are, you say all of them, an expression of lowering down, they are.
Ki yashal zaytecha.
That's the pasuk we quote.
Your olives are falling. Elin zayt. Ilan zayt. Your
olive tree.
Yapil et
Peirotav.
Your fruits are
Will
falling.
literally throw down its fruit.
Lo yigi'u b'mishol. And it doesn't...
They will not. It's a prediction. Right? This is part of the tochacha. If you don't do the right thing, then Hashem will send all these bad things. Has v'shalom. One of the things Hashem will send, that your olives will drop off the tree prematurely.
It's cooking.
Cooking means ripen. It's a word used for ripening. As if when it gets more ripened, it's like cooked better, as it were. That's an expression that's used for ripening. So Rashi says that's the pshat in the pasuk. What is Hashem promising? What's so bad that will happen? You don't act nicely, your olives are going to fall off the tree. Good, I want them to fall off the tree. I can't use them when they're on the tree. Rashi says no. You know why that's tochacha? Why that's a tochacha? That Hashem promises they're going to fall off the tree. What's so bad if they fall off the tree? They won't ripen. They'll never ripen. Right? Some things when they fall off a tree, that's it. They don't ripen anymore. Some things like bananas, they become ripe off the tree. Some fruit can only become ripened while they're still on the tree. You get it, Sruli?
Yeah.
Great. Weiter. Back to the Gemora. So the person who said Mashilim, we have a source for his version in Devarim, in the Chumash. And he's certainly high and dry. He's certainly got a good proof, a good source. What about the other fellow? Man detani mashchilin. We can prove that he's also what? Not making a horrible mistake. There's a source for him as well. Where do we see that? This time not in Chumash, but rather in a Mishnah. Hashachul, Hakasul. Right now, Rashi says, what are these different things? This is, by the way, if you look on the side, where is this Mishnah? Can you tell where this Mishnah is? That we're not quoting? In Bechoros. See that on the side, Bechoros?
Yes.
You know what Bechoros is all about? Firstborn.
Yeah.
Why would you want to know about the firstborn? Because with animals, it should become a korban. You should stand up. So they can have a moon, right? They can have a problem. Or we might be talking about a Bechor who works on the base of Medrash not having a moon. But we're talking about a moon of either an animal or a person. Okay, let's see Rashi. Kasul and Shahul.
Mumim Bekor Mishum Shirua.
Sarua.
Sarua.
In the Chumash it talks about the moon called Sarua, which is what?
She'achat michaver.
Avarav.
Avarav is genital.
Its limbs.
Avarav, limbs. Gadol. Mechavero. Mechivero.
What?
Mechivero.
Chavero, from its friend, right, from its fellow limb. Right? Very often we have pairs of limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs,
One is longer than
that
the
they're
other.
supposed to match up. If it looks like one limb is grossly larger or smaller than the other, it looks weird, right? That's also kind of a moon.
It's quite common in U-boats.
You have that?
Yeah, lots of it.
What do you do?
Depends on the cause.
Sometimes they're salvageable.
Yeah, sometimes, depending on the cause. Sometimes they have to be built up shoes. They're shorter than.
Yeah.
Lots of different reasons for that.
So apparently that's a moon, and therefore in this Mishnah which talks about a moon of this sort.
Yeah. And a Rashi.
Yeah, we just finished the Rashi. Let's go back to the Mishnah now. Hashachul v'akasul. These different kinds of kind of mumim where one limb is larger than the other. What is that? Now the Mishnah explains itself. Shachul is. Let's go with the Gemora. Back to the Gemora. Yeah, Shachul v'chasul. Shachul is Yerecho. What happened? Shemitah. You know what Shemitah is?
Stop.
Release. Nishmata, it got released. What became released? The thigh, right? Kind of got dislocated maybe or something, right? Out of place. So it appears, it makes one of the legs appear longer. Or the next one, what is kasul? She'echad.
One of its limbs are higher than another.
Okay, one of the thighs. Right, a yerech is a thigh. Right? So what do we see from this Mishnah? What were we trying to prove? The lashon of mashchilin. That the word mashchilin, if you have mashchilin in our Mishnah, it's not a mistake.
Yes.
How do we know it's not a mistake from this Mishnah? How do we see in this Mishnah that mashchilin would be a good version of our Mishnah? Because our Mishnah is talking about what? Taking produce and lowering it down. And what do you see over here? One of the mumim was called?
Tsama.
One of these mumim was called what?
Shachul.
Shachul. Same word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means what? It said, what is shachul? That it got dislocated.
Yes.
And then what happens when a thigh gets dislocated? It gets lowered down. So Rashi said that's the point. That's how we can prove from this Mishnah that the mashchilin version is not a mistake. Let's see Rashi. Shenishmata Yerecho. Ashbala. Alma means, so we see, it's like a payoff word. So we see,
it's the language of falling.
That it is a language of lowering down. Hashbala. Remember, lahashpil?
Yeah.
Rashi used that expression before. So what happens when one of the thighs gets dislocated? It gets lowered down. So Rashi says, therefore, we can recommend it as a usage in the Mishnah. That's also going to be called lowering down. Okay?
Yes.
Weiter in the Gemora.
Okay. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar
Rav
Amar
Nachman.
bar Yitzchak. Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Man the Tanim. Start again.
It's in the middle of a line.
Yeah. You have a Mishnah thing?
No.
It's in the middle of a line, like I think the seventh line
Yes,
down.
I got it. Amar Rav Nachman.
Or Yitzchak.
Okay.
What's he saying here?
Man bar Yitzchak says, Man the Tanim Meshir.
Now, have we seen that before?
Yeah.
No, it's a new candidate for our Mishnah. It's the third lashon of lowering down. Till now, we had two candidates that were actually proposed by Amoraim, right? Rav Yehuda and Rav Nassim were arguing about the right girsa. Mashilin, Mashchilin. Now we have a third candidate. What's the third candidate?
Meshir.
Mashirin. Sounds like Mashilin, but you change the lama to a resh. And what does Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak say about that? Is that a good candidate or not?
Yes, good.
Yes. Yes.
Whoever would learn that, he says, lo mishtabesh. He's not making a gross error. So it's a good candidate. Now Rashi says over here, interestingly enough, Mandatani. Actually, it's a Rashi we skipped, but we'll go back to that later. Second wide line, Mandatani. Kilomar means what?
Like he said.
No, not like you said. That is to say. In other words, that kind of an expression in Rashi means don't take this literally, take it figuratively. Now that means it's not exactly going to be as simple as it seems.
Yep.
Why? Why is this not as simple as it seems? Because this here, there's no real person who's saying this version. Before we actually had Rav Yehuda and Rav Nassim battling it out. Not that we knew who was saying what, but we knew there's two great rabbis who are offering their version. Here Rashi says, when Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said this could be a good version, he didn't mean actually. There's no one actually who's proposing this. Mm-hmm. All he's saying is what? That is to say, Ihaba. No. Ihavatana Datani Haki. If there would be a what? A Tana, a person, Datani Haki, who learned this version, such a version, he wouldn't be making a mistake. Do we actually have someone who's proposing this? No. So what's Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak doing? All hypothetical. If there would be someone who would want to offer this as a suggestion, I would say he's not making a gross error. How could he say that? Based on the same idea. Do we find a source somewhere for this being a lowering down? Yes. Right? We're going to show how these expressions that are coming up now, even though they're hypothetical, there's no one really who offered them as a candidate, but he's just showing you that there are other lashonos that sound very similar, which are not mistakes. They are good ways of expressing lowering down.
So who's
Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, he was an Amora.
So he's another Amora.
No, but he's saying, I'm telling you that these words have the same grammatical meaning as the other words that we talked about.
Yeah.
So if anybody would come along and suggest it, I wouldn't be against it. But he knows there's no one yet who suggested it. He just wants you to know that there are other words which are very similar, synonyms.
Just teaching like the different words with the Mishnah.
There are other words that sound similar, which have a similar meaning as well.
Okay.
All these words sound similar, right? Mashilin, mashchilin, mashirin. and yet they have a similar meaning as well. Two of them, there's actual people who say that. That's the shot in our Mishnah. But now he's saying there's a third offering, which nobody actually said, but they could have, because it's very similar in meaning, and it sounds similar as well. And he's saying another one as well. This one's really surprising, to me at least.
Mandatani mashkiri.
Also,
would
not be making a mistake. Not that there exists such a person, but again, if anyone hypothetically come along and offer this up as a suggestion, we would have to accept it as a possibility, because it's also a way of expressing lower and down.
Yeah. So,
now what's he going to do? What we did before, to show how each expression has a precedent to mean lowering down.
correct.
Mandatani shirin.
Mandatani
He actually adds a nun, which is interesting. Man shirin. Or is mashirin?
Manshirin lo mishtabesh.
Or maybe this is this is a third option. He's giving us another option now. Man shirin, not just mashirin. Now he's saying even man shirin is a good option. Mashirin, mashchirin, manshirin, and a fourth one? No, just three. Now he's going to prove it. Mandatani mashirin.
Mandatani mashirin lo mishtabesh.
He's not making a mistake. Why? Because we find a precedent. This one appears where? In a Mishnah in Nazir. And what's the halakha with Nazir, by the way? One of the things about a Nazir is he's not allowed to cut his hair.
Yeah.
So they have a serious problem. Yes, you can. They have a serious problem that they can't wash their hair, really. Why? Because their kippah might fall off. I mean, their hair might fall off.
Techniques me today. See, I started that.
I wanted to demonstrate my shearing.
Because I have so many pairs of glasses, I don't know which to use.
Alright, well, at least you have enough. Baruch Hashem. So, he's going to show now that something here about the hair falling out, right? Some of us don't need to wash our hair for our hair to fall out, but a younger fellow like Sruli has to wash his hair for it to fall out.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you're a Nazir? Can you wash your hair? Or do you have to worry about it falling out, and that's like cutting your hair? You're allowed?
No.
Depends. I think it depends whether it's a psik ratio or not. Okay, let's go. It says over there, Nazir, what? Rabbi Shmuel. He's not allowed to shampoo his hair using what? Be'adama, using mud. Right? That's something you and I would not have thought to use a shampoo, maybe during the 9 days, right? But it apparently was something people used to use to wash their hair. Why not? Why can't a Nazir use this regular kind of shampoo? This abrasive, it's abrasive, right? Mud is abrasive. Mipnei Hase'ar. It is Meishir the Se'ar. It what? It can make his hair fall out, right? And that's also for a Nazir. So if it's a psik resha, so you have a problem, right? Something that's likely to cause your hair to fall out, you're not allowed to use. Whereas a normal person will be allowed, but a Nazir can't cut his hair. It's like cutting his hair, as it were. So what do we see here? The lashon of what? Meishir is a good lashon of what? Causing something to go down. Here, the hair. But then it's a good candidate for our Mishnah also. Then he's trying to make the produce go through that skylight down into the house. Is that a good lashon? Yes, that would be a good lashon, says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Umadatani mashchirin. Someone who learns mashchirin, which I would have said means to blacken, right? I would have said from the word shachor. But apparently, it can also mean to cause something to go down. Lo mishtabish. He also wouldn't be making a mistake, again, hypothetically, if he had used this word for our Mishnah. Disnan, now we're bringing a proof from what? Meseches Kalim, where it talks all about different Kalim and whether they're Makabel Tuma or not. And here it's talking about different kinds of scissors. Right? Hashachor, which could be a kind of a scissor, let's say.
Hazuk.
Shel Sparim, I mean Misparayim, like today we call it Misparayim. Zug Shel Saparim. Sapar is a hair cutter, right? Even today they say, I'm going to the sapar. So these things which are used by the hair cutters, Rashi says shachor is a razor actually. Tosa said it's a small kind of a scissor. But anyways, and a zug, you know what a zug is, a real scissors, right? Because that's why they're called a zug, because you need both together, right? So what if they become detached? Are they still makabel tuma? Half of a scissor? Afal pi shenechlaku, even though they become separated, divided, meaning separated, the two halves get separated, they're still tameim, they're still makabel tuma, right? Obviously in Hilchos Tuma we'd have to know why. Can't use one half without the other, but somehow in Hilchos Tuma it's still makabel tuma. That's not our inyan right now, but what do we see here? The word shachur is used for something that causes the hair to fall down. And therefore it can be used also to mean fall down. To cause something to fall down, to go down. Let's see Rashi. Shachur.
Shachur.
Ta'ar. Ta'ar. Ta'ar means a razor, right? Like you're not supposed to use a real razor on your face. That's the word that the Torah uses. So Rashi's learning it's a tar. Tosa says it's kind of scissors. But anyhow, let's say it's a razor like Rashi. Al shame, meaning for the sake of the matter. Why is it called hashachur if it's like a razor? Mashchir is haseir. It makes the hair go down. And that's what we want to prove. We're trying to prove that the word means to make something go down. So that's what it's called. It's called a shachur because it makes the hair fall down. Alma. So we see hashpala. That's our word of the day. Remember hashpala?
Yeah.
To lower something down. I said it can mean in modern Hebrew to degrade as well. Hashpala. So we see again that the word could have been used in our Mishnah because it can be used elsewhere to mean lowering down. Okay, we'll stop here.